Okay, I have to remake this recording. Day 367 of the Worldwide Megacrisis Hungerstrike. All right, so I just had something very serious happen with one of my supporters. A rich man that keeps coming into my rooms to try to support me has given thousands of dollars so far to keep me alive and things going. And we're fighting right now while we're arguing. But there's something really nefarious happening, and I want to explain how people turn into cult leaders, especially when they're intelligent and they have good hearts. Okay, some people have distortions. All right, and I'm passionate because I got activated. I'm like, he started wasting my time, and I don't have a lot of time because I'm on day 33 of the hunger strike, and I'm inviting you, by the way, to my birthday to help make these last blessings so I can try and eat here on this hunger strike. So I was with this guy. I'm not going to say his name, but he keeps doing something that you need to be aware of to protect yourself. It's a very manipulative behavior, but you need to be aware of it because it creates cults. All right? And this is how intelligent people get stuck in them and they get shocked. And it's about dialectics. So in the backwards world, the people who are virtuous and truly like doing the right things look like they're not. And the people who are not doing the right things but look like it are on top. We're in that inverted position now. So when I get mad, I got mad at him today. The passion came out of me because he was manipulating me, but in a way that not a lot of people can recognize if they're not trained in anti-cult training or reason or argumentation. So the public are going to side with him because they don't know how to see what's really happening, but besides the calm demeanor and saying the right he's saying all the right things, but underneath that is a narrative showing me that he's actually becoming a cult leader. And it's actually part of this mental pathology. He has a mental illness. He's been clinically diagnosed. And I think this has a part to play in it. So I was in a hospital locked in there for 8 weeks on my first hunger strike, and they were trying to pathologize me, and they tried to give me 10 disorders and personality issues and all these types of things. And then after 8 weeks, they came to the conclusion I had none of them. And I had the largest multidisciplinary team at that hospital, in the hospital's history, looking at my case because it was complex and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. They couldn't give me an easy diagnosis and pinpoint to these things. And I had a whole medical side and a whole psychiatric side. I had 2 huge multidisciplinary teams and a clinical ethicist on my team. And by the end of it, by the 8th week, the senior doctor came in and said, "There's nothing wrong with you." And I said, "I know, I'm on a hunger strike because it's my political rights." And in the medical notes, the clinical ethicist actually said that to them in the medical notes. Well, said to the effect of, "You can't keep this guy here just because you don't like what he's doing." All right. This other guy, the wealthy guy, doesn't have that. His doctors actually say he does have a mental illness. And I'm tracking it down as a memory problem. He's got a memory problem. He has high IQ, but he has a memory problem. And the two together causes weird behavior. And he's calm. He has a calm, like depressed demeanor. So he doesn't get activated all the time because his baseline is so low. So he looks like he's calm, but it's like it looks like he's in control, but he's actually in this weird psychotic, weird world. Okay, where it's actually a distortion of reality. But he's a good posture. He acts socially acceptable. And you gotta be careful for that. Because he's not even going to intend to be a cult leader. But it overrides you. And you get sucked into this culture, this weird culture. And here's how it happens, okay? This is gonna be an update on the core about sacred time. I give people sacred time every day, twice a day, for 1 hour in my meetings. And he's coming. And he's saying, we're quarreling right now, right? We're fighting. Well, I'm not quarreling. I'm trying to teach him a lesson to go into genuine reason. He thinks he's teaching me a lesson, which is how it always looks, right? The master and the student. And there are, of course, some things that I'll be the student on and learn from him, but it's not the universal. It's not this. This is what I've studied to make sure that I'm not building a cult and that I'm genuinely empowering people, which is why I'm being explicit about it with him. And while I have passion, I got passionate right now because I'm thinking of the children. And we're sitting here as white men in privileged worlds talking about this, going around in circles, in dead circles, not the living circles. I can't handle that, especially when I have something really exciting to be working on that could save all of our lives really quickly. Shout out goes to my dad for helping with that. So the lesson here about sacred time is he was abusing it today. And he's coming in and he's like, I'm the one that's supporting you. I'm the one, he's the hero basically. And he's going to host this conference to save our lives. And I'm saying that conference needs to happen now, because in 4 or 5 months from now, we're going to have like 5 more versions of Claude Mythos and it'll be too late. And he doesn't get it. And before, like 5 months ago, he's like, there's no evidence. They literally just came out with an article last week saying that Claude Mythos can no longer be tested because it's so smart that it's beyond our capacity to make tests. What else do you need to see? And then on top of that, just today, Anthropic said that Claude Mythos has found 10,000 bugs in all of our software right now. It's getting worse. What else do you need to see? There's something wrong with, he doesn't have a compass. He's very particular facted, like there's particular minds and there's universal wise minds. I can see trends over particulars. He can't do it because he's looking for social approval. He's looking for somebody who has power to say, hey, something is happening. And because I'm not popular, he doesn't want to go by what I'm saying, even though the facts are literally leading in this trail and they're credible sources from the companies themselves, from peer review. It's because he doesn't want to give up his status, because he's a comfortable, spoiled, rich man with a good heart, just terrible behavior. And so today, because I gave him sacred time, he had time to do this weird maneuver that I want to tell you about, and so you can protect yourself. And I teach this before you get into Fair World Spirit so that you are genuinely empowered. That's what the empowerment sentence is, which is what we're unpacking today in the core, right? You know my updates. I do my personal update. How am I doing? And not so well. My hand is tingling. My pinky's numb. I went to bed last night. It's still numb, which means it could be nerve damage from the lack of food, right? Day 33, no food. So that's concerning. So we got to get on this quick. And it's my birthday coming up. So I'm inviting you to my birthday to make a last hurrah to get these 3,600 blessings, which is really just coming to my birthday bash, getting on the video and giving a compliment to somebody. That's a blessing. Actually, it could be worth 20 blessings, because if we have 108 people, then the blessings, each act you do is worth more. Okay, and yeah, it's a game. It's to encourage us to do acts of kindness, to be human again. That's what the point is. And to not just do it in our immediate circles, but around the world. So there's this behavior, though, in the core you need to know. So let's unpack the core. All right, I do my personal update. I do the world news emergency core, which is the Anthropic thing I just said, 10,000 acts. And now we're going to do the actual core so you understand the vision. You have to understand the vision, the foundation, so that you don't get pulled into a culture that you don't understand. So the core is Fair World Spirit's core is about time compression through clarity and ego wisdom. The problem being the Megacrisis, the solution being the 2 sacred sentences, and number 3, the implementation is flow, rules, and flocks. All right. So we're going to go and unpack those because you probably don't understand them unless you've been watching my videos where I say it every day. Oh, my arm's falling asleep. Oh. We unpacked the Megacrisis, ego wisdom, time compression, and Megacrisis. So now we're talking about the second part of core, which is the 2 sacred sentences. The first one is about empowerment. And to be empowered, you have to have reason. And you have to have time to speak. All right? And you have to have tools to map out the conversations in a very unique way to make sure you're not being manipulated, like how I'm being manipulated. Where it doesn't look like I'm being manipulated. Everything looks fine on the outside. But if you're really good at watching the power of the word, the universals, you can start to see behind the mask. And that's what wisdom is. It's judgment on the true nature, not the surface appearance. And on the surface, this guy looks like he's doing everything right. But that's not the true nature of what's going on. And you have to be able to recognize that to have empowerment, right? So the empowerment sentence goes like this. Fair World Spirit meetings follow sacred time, empowering people with the rights to flow using universal tools. And he's impeding on my right to flow because I'm giving him sacred time. And it's allowing him, no matter what I say, it's just allowing him time to say his voice. But that can turn into a manipulation. And here's how. There's 4 control dramas. There's 4 ways that people control generally and get attention or energy or power. Number 1, well, there's 2 sides. There's the aggressive side and there's the passive side. So the aggressive side are the intimidators. They physically threaten you. Number 2 is the interrogator. They question you to death and unground you. And then number 3, there's the aloof. That's the passive. So we move from the aggressive. Now the dialectical mirror of those is the passive. So the aloof and the poor me. the victimhood. And you can manipulate people in all four of those modes, okay? So he is not aggressive. I'm more aggressive. I'm more passionate, actually. And people mistake my passion for these aggressions. But I'm thinking about the children, like I say that. If they see us, if I was those kids, I would be upset what's going on. So because it's a passive control drama, it's even harder to see the manipulation. All right. But here's how you tell if you're being manipulated. Reason. All right. That's the central. If somebody's overriding your reason or ignoring it, you're in a cult dynamic with somebody. That's it. That's the essence of the problem. The one criterion. You don't need to know all this and all. Like, are they ignoring my reasons? And are they going around in circles? Everything spawns from that. All cult behavior, all control dramas. If somebody's not addressing the reasoning, the genuine reason, the living reason, then you're going to, if you stay around them long enough, you'll end up in their cult. So what he's doing is there's a tricky spot in this model of empowerment. If you give somebody sacred time, it gives them space to do that manipulation and keep ignoring reason. So what do you do in this situation? Let me give you an example today, what happened. He comes into my room, and he's one of the only people that comes into the room now, because I told other people just to hold off while I focus on the meetings and save my energy, right? I had two more people, Esther and Favor, come back, and people want to be in the meetings. It's just that they can't really do the real work yet, or they want to get paid, or they have other things going on where I'm like, okay, they're not ready. So it's better for me to take my hour and focus on the software and getting the whole system going so we can get 1,000 people going and all this. My mouth is so dry. I'm losing my energy because the adrenaline is wearing off. I'm going to pay for this. Like, when I'm thinking about children suffering and the suffering in the world, I have a law of reserve energy for the moment, but then I pay the price later. It's going to come out of my liver or something because I'm starving, right? All right. So let's finish this update before that happens. He's using sacred time to ignore my reasoning. So what happened is we were arguing about something, and he said, well, what are your reasons? Oh, that's what it was. I said, Joe, we've already... Oh, shoot. Whatever. We... Okay. Anyway. I'm just thinking, nobody knows who this guy is. Joe's a very common name. Same with John, Jacob. Okay. Nobody's going to watch these anyway for a while. This is to the hardcores that have good hearts who are still here. All right. So, because I'm trying to protect people too, right? I still love them. There's enough protection here. Because we never say last names. We never say in the recordings. At least not very often. All right. The point is, when you're in the room with somebody like this, they can have a good heart. It makes it even more confusing when they have a good heart. You got to look for the reasoning. And if they're overriding it with their sacred time, they're using it, it'll eventually turn into gaslighting. Because as soon as they can ignore your reasoning once, they'll just do it again, and it gets deeper and deeper. And it becomes a real, like a metronome. You have to hold your ground. If you're going to be around it, you have to hold. It's exhausting, but you got to address it every single time. And this way, it sends out a signal to other people that eventually you realize you're going around in circles, that there's a bad infinite happening. And bad infinite is a universal logical determination that escapes ordinary consciousness that wise people use to recognize what the pattern is really, what pattern is really going on. So there are these tools to really help you discern the patterns here, even when other people who are being abusive don't realize it, which is what's happening now. I'm making it explicit, but he keeps going around in circles. And like I said, it's even more confusing because there are living circles that you want to get into, and then there are these dead tautological ones. So you have to know the difference of the wakefulness of things That's called discernment. And logic is what helps you discern. There's dead logic and there's living logic. So you have to know what kind of logic is good too. So what kind of logic, what kind of circles, what kind of behaviors. It's a lot of levels of discernment. And that's why it gets easy to be lost in culture. So I'm doing my best to help you sort through that with wisdom. Okay, which requires, like I said, judgment. He is the aloof, like I said. The argument we were having, he was very calm about it. But I was starting to get passionate because I wanted to go work on the software, and I'm thinking, this is not going to save children's lives. I'm dealing with a pathological condition in this guy's mind. He has a memory problem. Like, I'm being a therapist now, and he's not listening, and he doesn't have to because I don't have the credentials to put labels on him, right? There's no power that way. So I feel like the sacred time's not being used effectively. And when I feel that way on day 33 of no hunger, my nervous system is thinking, I know what these children feel like around the world that are hungry. These 700 million people. I don't want to be doing this right now because it doesn't feel loving or caring. It feels kind of caring to him, but it's in his ego. So it's not penetrating. So it feels like a waste of time until I get through the ego. So the argument was, I was saying to him that these conversations needed to move in a direction. And he said, well, what's your reasoning? And I said, well, you're going around in circles. And he said, well, you're doing that because you're delusional. You're a cult. You're trying to control me. And I said, yeah, I am trying to control the behavior that you're giving towards me that's manipulative and controlling. So I'm trying to control your control. And that's called self-defense. And so even that, it's like there's good control and there's bad control. Another discernment, right? So he's trying to make it look like I'm the bad controller because I'm the Messiah and I'm making all these power claims. So he's doing something superficial. On the superficial level, it's like, yeah, I am controlling universal logic. I am controlling all these things. But he's ignoring the underlying reasoning. He's distorted. He knows the public isn't, he doesn't need to know. His brain knows the public's not going to make that discernment, that there's good control and bad control. He's just going to focus on bad control because most people are poor and they hate systems that are controlling them, right? So it's a rhetorical argument, not an actual genuine argument. And arguments, there's cooperative argumentation. It doesn't mean fighting. Quarreling and fighting is different from arguments. Arguments lead somewhere constructive, cooperation, usually, all right, or into the good. So this is a good example of superficially, it looks like he's doing the right thing, but underneath he's the one controlling, because he's controlling the narrative, right? He's not understanding the discernment between two types of control. He's controlling the narrative to be on the one type of control that's rhetorically acceptable to the public because he wants social acceptance. It's justified to control somebody when they're trying to abuse you. And that's the central argument he's dodging. So when he says, what's your argument? I gave him 7 off the top of my head. Boom, 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 boom. Not so much it's overwhelming, but not so little that it's not convincing or inspiring or compelling. Okay? And that's pretty hard to do off the top of your head when you're hungry. And what he did is when I gave those arguments, right? That's the crux of he's like, I need to see these arguments to change my position. I gave those arguments. He ignored them all and went back to an argument way before this and did something called a red herring. Totally circumvented it. So you can't pinpoint his behavior with reasons. Those 7 reasons I gave him would have addressed this point that changed his mind, but his brain subconsciously either got overwhelmed because he might have a memory problem and then switched to longer term memory of this other thing we talked about. Oh, we did talk about that. I'm going to go in this direction, which I was planning to go. We did need to resolve this. He's right in this area. He has a high IQ, right? So I was going to go back to this point about my dad, but then we got into this argument about, oh, there's something going on with this memory. There's something like going on with the arguments going around in circles. And then I gave my 7 arguments and he ignored those and then went back. So it's preserving a myopic view in his head that I'm wrong, I'm controlling him, when I address that the control is actually his behavior. He needs to look at himself and make this discernment between 2 types of control. And the reason behind me justifying my control is the thing being ignored, which makes it conflate the control with the bad control. So if you delete that reason, then you are subservient to their narrative. And that's his argument to me. He thinks that I'm deleting reason. But if you look at these recordings, you can see that I'm engaging reason directly virtually every single time because I know the importance of it. He's ignoring it and he's doing it repeatedly. So what I'm going to do to help I don't think he's aware of this. That's why it's so insidious, is that he's doing it to himself too, which is why it's a pathology. That's why psychiatrists are pathologizing him, is he can't get out of the loop. So I'm going to help expose that to him in a way that modern psychiatry can't, because it doesn't have universal logic to know the bad infinite and all these powerful distinctions and discernments. So it's frustrating today, but I learned from all these frustrating occasions, because it shows that I have a limit of understanding about their world, and I'm learning about their world. And as long as you stay open to your side of the equation, your responsibility, you learn. So what I'm learning, because I took the vow of abandonment, I don't like his behavior. I put a boundary in it today. I gave him his sacred time. When his sacred time was over, I stopped it and said, he's just continuing to override me. Because if he doesn't have to address these 7 arguments, the conversation never gets grounded in reason. It just keeps going into his delusions, right? Because this is where the answer is, down here. And he skipped it. So you have to keep bringing it up. But his brain will get overwhelmed if it's a memory problem. So it's a double bind. It's a lose-lose situation for me, unless I can help him with his memory. And that's where the sublation, the epiphany comes in to help him. I'm going to make a visual map that I'm going to share on the screen, and I'm going to map out the argument. So the map will hold the memory that his memory can't hold. And then he can see what I'm saying. And then it might click. It's new, right? It's a new thing to try that would break new ground. He doesn't know how to do that because he doesn't have wisdom yet on that level. So I have that wisdom, thank God, right? Enough to show him this path to break out his Messiah so we can have a real conversation at that Messiah level. But he's not being a Messiah right now. He's lost is what it is. So I'm going to share my wisdom of the tens of thousands of hours I've taken to study proper argumentation, human communication,